Chris Sr., a loving, family man, stood on the porch of their new home, Ridgewood Manor, with his wife Megan and their 3 kids, Chris Jr., Sky, and Ye. The house was an old Victorian, with creaky floors and an eerie presence. Despite its ominous appearance, the family was excited about the fresh start. "Isn't this place amazing?" Megan said, her sweet, loving nature evident as she glanced nervously at the darkened windows, trying to reassure her children. "It's perfect," Chris Sr. replied, forcing a smile as he looked at his children. "Let's get settled in. Who wants to find the ghost first?" he added with a chuckle, making a spooky face to lighten the mood. Megan quickly checked Sky's insulin pump, a constant reminder of her daughter's diabetes. "Sky, let me know if you feel weird." "Okay." Sky nodded, clutching her small medical bag that she always carried. "Okay, Mom." That night, strange things began to happen. Sky, who was always the curious one, decided to explore the attic. She tiptoed upstairs, her flashlight flickering ominously. As she moved, her medical alert bracelet jingled softly. "Mama, there's a doll up here," she called out. "A doll?" Megan asked, her voice echoing from downstairs. "Just leave it alone, Sky." But Sky didn't listen. She picked up the doll, its glassy eyes staring back at her. Suddenly, she heard a whisper. "Play with me ... double quotes." Sky screamed and dropped the doll, running back downstairs. "Mommy," the doll spoke to me. "You're just tired." "Sweetie, go to bed," Megan said, trying to reassure her daughter while casting a worried glance at Chris Sr. Downstairs, Ye, being the tech-savvy 13-year-old, decided to set up the family's electronics. As he plugged in the TV, it flickered to life on its own, displaying static before an old black and white image of the house appeared. In the grainy footage, a shadowy figure moved through the halls. "Dad, come look at this," Ye called out, his voice shaky. Chris Sr. walked over, trying to maintain his composure. "Just old footage, buddy. Probably just a glitch." As the night progressed, more eerie incidents unfolded. Chris Jr. wandered into the kitchen, his tiny fingers brushing against the cold countertop. The refrigerator door creaked open, revealing its contents eerily organized. Chris Jr. giggled, thinking it was a game. "Mommy, look, the fridge is funny." Megan, on edge, quickly closed the door. "Okay, sweetheart, let's get you to bed." Meanwhile, Chris Sr. was in the bathroom, brushing his teeth when the mirror fogged up. He wiped it clean, only to see the words "get out" appear in the condensation. He laughed nervously, convincing himself it was just a trick of the steam. Back in the living room, Megan settled down with a book, trying to relax. Suddenly, the grandfather clock struck midnight. Even though it had been broken for years according to the previous owner, the chimes were deafening, echoing through the house and causing everyone to cover their ears. "Enough of this," Chris Sr. muttered. "I'm going to bed. We'll deal with this in the morning." As they all settled into their rooms, the house grew unnervingly quiet. But the peace was short-lived. Sky, unable to sleep, tossed and turned in her bed. She glanced at her bedside table, where her glucose monitor lay. The screen suddenly flashed a warning. "Dangerously low blood sugar." "Mama," Sky cried out, her voice weak. Megan rushed in, her heart pounding. She grabbed the glucose gel from Sky's medical bag and administered it. As Sky's breathing steadied, Megan felt a cold breeze pass through the room, sending shivers down her spine. In the master bedroom, Chris Sr. lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He could hear faint whispers, almost like children playing. He sat up, straining to listen. "Daddy, are you awake?" Chris Jr. stood at the doorway, clutching his teddy bear. Chris Sr. sighed, trying to mask his fear. "Come here, buddy. Let's get you back to bed." But as he tucked Chris Jr. in, he noticed something strange. The teddy bear's eyes, once plastic and lifeless, now seemed to glint with a malicious sparkle. He shook his head, dismissing it as his imagination. The next day, Chris Sr.'s siblings arrived. Michelle, Lamont, Toya, Andre, Mikey, and Mickey, who was already high off that gas. Megan's sister Montana and her daughter Avalon also joined them. "This place is huge," Andre remarked, looking around. "Yeah, but it's kinda creepy," Montana added, holding Avalon's hand tightly. As the night fell, the house seemed to come alive. Shadows moved, doors creaked, and whispers filled the air. Later that evening, the family gathered in the living room to share stories. Chris Sr. was in the middle of a joke when the lights flickered and went out. "What's going on?" Chris Jr. asked, clinging to his father's leg. "I'll check the fuse box," Chris Sr. said, grabbing a flashlight. "Maybe it's just the ghost playing tricks on us," he joked, trying to keep the mood light. As he ventured into the basement, a cold chill ran down his spine. The fuse box was fine, but he heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, he saw nothing. Then, out of the darkness, a pair of hands grabbed him. "Chris!" Megan screamed from upstairs as she heard her husband's terrified yell. Everyone rushed to the basement, but it was too late. Chris Sr. lay lifeless on the floor, his face twisted in horror. Megan fell to her knees, sobbing. "Something's in this house," Mickey said, his voice trembling despite the calmness his usual pot smoking provided. "We need to leave," but the doors wouldn't open. They were trapped. As the night dragged on, more horrors unfolded. Michelle went to check on Sky and found the girl standing by her window, speaking to an unseen figure. "Sky, who are you talking to?" Michelle asked, her voice shaking. "The lady in the window," Sky replied, pointing to the darkened glass. "She says she wants to play." Before Michelle could react, the window shattered, and a ghostly figure pulled her out. Sky's screams echoed through the house as Michelle disappeared into the darkness. The remaining family members huddled together, trying to come up with a plan. Megan constantly checked Sky's blood sugar, her anxiety rising with every beep of the monitor. "We need to find a way out," Lamont said, looking around frantically. "There has to be a way." They decided to split up to search for an exit. Megan and Montana went upstairs, while Mickey, Lamont, and Andre stayed on the main floor. Mikey went to the basement. In the basement, Mikey found an old journal detailing the house's gruesome past. It spoke of a vengeful spirit who killed anyone who dared to live there. As he read, he felt a cold breath on his neck. "Mikey, behind you." He heard a voice, but it was too late. The spirit plunged a spectral dagger into his back. His screams echoed through the house, sending chills down everyone's spine. Meanwhile, on the main floor, Lamont was separated from the group. He found himself in the old library, surrounded by dusty books and the oppressive silence. He felt a chill and turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. "Guys, help!" he screamed, pounding on the door. Suddenly, the books began to fly off the shelves, circling him like a tornado. A spectral figure appeared in the center of the room, eyes glowing with malice. Lamont backed away, but the spirit was too fast. It lunged at him, its ghostly hands wrapping around his throat. Lamont's screams echoed through the house as he was lifted off the ground, his body convulsing violently before going limp. The spirit dropped him, and his lifeless body crumpled to the floor. Mickey, despite his usual calm demeanor, was growing increasingly paranoid. He wandered into the kitchen, hoping to find something to calm his nerves. He lit a blunt, inhaling deeply, but the smoke seemed to take on a life of its own, forming into ghostly shapes that danced around him. "Mickey, get a grip," he muttered to himself. But then he heard a whisper, soft at first, but growing louder. "Get out, ... get out, ... double quotes, comma." He turned to see the kitchen knives lifting off the counter. One by one, they pointed toward him. Mickey tried to run, but the knives flew through the air, embedding themselves in his back. He collapsed to the ground, his blood pooling around him as he gasped for breath. Andre decided to confront whatever was haunting the house. He grabbed a fireplace poker and ventured into the darkened hallways. "Show yourself," he shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. He turned a corner and came face to face with a shadowy figure. Summoning all his courage, he swung the poker, but it passed through the ghost as if it were made of smoke. The figure smiled, a chilling grin, and reached out. Andre felt a cold hand grip his heart. He dropped the poker, his knees buckling as he fell to the ground. His vision blurred, and he felt his life being drained away. With a final, desperate gasp, he collapsed, lifeless. Upstairs, Megan and Montana found a hidden room. Inside, they discovered a box of old relics, and a map showing a secret passage out of the house. As they tried to open the passage, a ghostly figure appeared, attacking them. Run, Megan, Montana yelled, sacrificing herself to buy time for her sister. Megan grabbed the map and ran downstairs, finding the others. We have to go, now. They followed the map to a hidden door in the living room, leading to an underground tunnel. As they ran through the dark passage, the spirits pursued them. Finally, they emerged into the cold night air, the spirits unable to follow, exhausted and traumatized. The survivors, Megan, Chris Jr., Ye, Sky, and Avalon, looked back at the house. We can never go back, Megan said, tears streaming down her face. As they walked away, the house stood silently, its dark secrets buried once more, waiting for its next victims. This haunting tale of Ridgewood Manor left the survivors scarred and wary of the supernatural, forever changed by the horrors they had witnessed.